Hey there, Crown Point family. It's good to connect with you toward the end of this week. Listen, this Sunday we're going to start a new series called Express Yourself, and it's using the Psalms to express our emotions, feelings, perspectives toward God. And John is going to kick us off this Sunday by looking at Psalm 1 that talks about delighting ourselves in God. I know he's looking forward to sharing that message with you, and you'll be blessed by it. Next week, I'm going to tackle a very important and difficult subject. It's in the area of unfairness and injustice. Both those times when we personally feel like we've been treated unfairly or unjustly, or in the community around us when we see evidence of it, and it makes our hearts cry out to God. And the events of just the recent last couple of weeks really bring this to an important head for us, don't they? That vision that is seared in our minds now of a white police officer putting his knee on the neck of a African American individual and holding it there until he dies. I mean, it is so sad and heartbreaking and angering. And no wonder there's so much protesting that's going on as a result of it. And it makes us cry out to God and say, God, how long is it that it will be until racism is wiped out and injustice and unfairness to any human person? Now, I know there's a lot of nuances to this, and we're gonna have to expand our perspective and consideration of it as we look at texts like Psalm 73, 37, and Psalm 10. We're going to have to look at the fact that there are police officers who do their jobs so well and who right now are at risk themselves because of violent protests. And there are business owners who are impacted by the looting and the rioting that's going on. But all of this brings us back to that fundamental idea that we are made in the image of God. And whatever our color, whatever our social economic status, that we ought to lift up the value of humanity and treat each other with fairness and equity and justice. And wherever we see injustice occur, that we ought to cry out to God, that we ought to stand up against it. And certainly as a church, we decry the racism that is evident in that incident and that we see in the world around us. And through the message next Sunday, we're going to really take a look, both personally and as a community. How do we respond in times like this? How do we both cry out to God, and how do we respond to what God has to say to us in an effective, impactful way in our lives and in our community to address these kind of issues? It's an important subject for today. I'm sure you can see that. Would you do something for me? Would you pray, first of all, for those who are most personally impacted by racism, injustice, and unfairness in the world today? Would you also pray for me as I prepare to preach this, I think, important message? And then third, would you join me in praying about ourselves, that we do some introspection and really ask God to show where there is unfairness or injustice or racism in our own hearts that needs to be rooted out so we can more nearly honor God and reflect the image of Christ in how we treat one another in our world today. It's an important subject. I'm looking forward to sharing that with you next week and looking forward to worshiping with you this Sunday as well. We'll see you then.